All right, so when you think of classical music, who's the very first composer that comes to your mind?
Beethoven.
She's right out of the gate. All right. All right, I was looking for some more variety, Mozart, Bach, there we go. Very cool, okay, good. But both, yeah, Beethoven's one I was kind of looking for anyways. But, so I'm going to pass out some manuscripts here. I want you guys to take a look at them real quick. You can hold on to them too. Now these manuscripts here it's an excerpt of Beethoven's cello sonata, and it's an accumulation of creative and underdeveloped ideas by the maestro himself. If you look at the manuscript, you can see the sheer insecurities that he has when writing his music. The vigorous scratches that he has in his music is he's looking for the perfect sequence of notes in his music, in all of his music. Now, given the scenario that Beethoven didn't exist, would his inexistence be trivial to the timeline of music? Or would it have hindered the growth of modern day classical music? Personally, my opinion, I think he is a very prominent figure in classical music, but musicologists would also disagree that he was just, a crazy alcoholic man that just couldn't get things right. But his sense of righteousness is what actually got him to where he was. And now I'm going to go through, my goal right now is to tell you how his music has impacted music and a little bit of his upbringing. So Beethoven was baptized on December 17th, 1770, and he was, it's a little controversial because, well, not controversial, but it's just there was no birth certificate when he was born. So no one really knows when he was born, and it was just maybe a couple of days before, but he was baptized on the 17th. So, but as a young boy, Beethoven was obviously a child prodigy, and his level of understanding music and skill awed audiences, just like Mozart, right? Okay. Now, Beethoven's father was an alcoholic, and he would unfortunately beat Beethoven sometimes while practicing, and he would make him practice his scales until his fingers bled. So, I don't know about you, but if you ever had a piano teacher, the slightest tap of a ruler is scary, right? But this is like the demon, piano teacher now, right? So it's kind of scary. All right, so I'm going to go through the very first thing we're going to talk about is the very first movement of his Fifth Symphony and the very four notes that he introduces himself with. And let's have a listen and listen to how they evolve. This works. Okay, so we all know that, right? It's so memorable, but the only reason why it's memorable is because you heard it so many times, and plus it's a very repetitive sequence of notes. And those repetitive sequence of notes are called motifs. And motifs were not used in this way in this kind of time and era. This is kind of the very first way that it was actually used. And Beethoven actually pushed it to its extremity. So let's have a listen to what else he underdevelops in this symphony of his. Okay, so listening to that, you can hear Beethoven's driving force in the music. I mean, that's his signature there. And if you listen to his Third Symphony, you can hear that in there. It's his driving force, it's dun, 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 that kind of accent that he puts on the notes. Now, why is his music so important to music, or the musical timeline? Well, it's because of his form. His form is what made music and changed music in the classical era all the way to his death. His growth in form and his growth in music is what pushed him to becoming a prominent figure in classical music. Now, his form is his strength. Musicologists would say he's the king at it. but his melodies that he writes are not much the same. So if you listen to his melodies, let's say you take a listen to his Seventh Symphony, the very first movement you can hear. This is on your own leisure. I want you to look at this, listen to this symphony. Just listen to it for one time. Don't come back to it. Come back to it the next day. See if you remember it. You won't remember it. I tried it many times. Even I still can't remember it. So it proves a point that that his music doesn't really drive melody, but it drives structure and formality. So when listening to those, if you listen to the seventh movement and if you listen to the second movement of his Seventh Symphony, you will hear that there's 3 notes that he uses in his second movement of his Seventh Symphony, and those 3 notes are very repetitive. I mean, the harmonies are very memorable, but the melody, you can't really hear it because it's underlining through the melody or the harmony. So I have discussed why Beethoven is a great composer, and that's because of his formality. Now, what I want you guys to do is whenever you hear those 4 notes, I want you to remind yourself the purpose and the formality that Beethoven used to infuse in them. Thank you very much.